All right, so this is the final video of the prep work on the 72 Cutlass, and we have it in the 2K primer now. We do use a guide coat when we're doing the 2K primer, just like we did with the slick sand. And once the guide coat is gone, we stop, because we want to leave as much of the 2K product on the car. That way we don't have any breakthroughs, and it'll be a much better job that way. So this here side has been 2K'd, and then the other side is 2K'd as well. After the body work was done, we slick sanded it, and now this one here is ready to go. So we've been sanding on it, prepping it out, and we finish off all our 2K primer with a 400 grit scratch. And you guys see here we have some Scotch-Brites and some DA paper. I like to use this around the edges once we get done blocking it with the blocks, to make sure we don't have any lines in the primer, so we don't have any problems when we go to paint this one. So this is the time where you're gonna really go ahead and go around all your edges with more of a softer block. That way you don't have any hard lines in it. So these are another good thing when you're getting ready for that final tune on the prep for the paint. It's really work nice around edges because they're flexible. This is like a cloth, and they will not gouge things. And I like to use these in the booth with the base coat, so that way it doesn't gouge the base if you do have a problem in the booth. But for stuff like this, where you're gonna get inside different holes and valleys, this is a really good product. And they make these in a different array of grits that really come in handy with it. So see this here hole? This would be something really good for this, to get in here and be able to get down inside this actual hole and get it sanded out good. All right, so these are the holes for the 442 emblem. We have them now on the trunk, and that way they're all drilled before you paint the car. Don't wait to the end of the job and think you're gonna go drilling holes in, not just to scratch it, but also for corrosion. You wanna make sure you're gonna get paint around the actual holes. That way you don't have any chance of rust, because the water does settle down around the emblem and will go inside here, and that's where you'll start to get rust. So make sure you do the drilling of the emblems before you paint the vehicle. All right, so we're working on the bottom of the trunk lid, and me and my buddy here, we were working on it, and we were looking at it, and we were laughing to ourselves on how the old school paint jobs were back in the day. You guys see this is a big run here on the inside of the trunk, and you can see all the metallics built up on that there with the lacquer that was on it. So that's how these cars were actually done back in the day. They weren't very picky back then, and a lot of the cars, when you restore them, a lot of the big time restorer guys that want to really go back with the original look are trying to actually duplicate these type of things, so that way the car doesn't look like it ever was restored and it looks time correct. So all right, so now we're going to go ahead and put some DP primer down before we seam seal it. That way it's treated underneath the seam seal the same way that we do the body work. And I'll show you some other stuff we're doing with the DP. We're also going to hit the inside of the door jambs with the DP. We stripped down where this was rusted from the factory, where they bolt up to the actual body of the car. And then along the bottom of the jambs, this was a very, very solid car, but we want to make sure we put down some DP on here, and that way it'll have the best holdout, because this car with the DP on it will last a lot longer than even what they had on the factory, and this thing lasted 51 years. So we're doing that, and we're also DPing the hinges where that was rusted and met up with the door on it. So just little extra things to try to prolong this beautiful Cutlass. There's nothing like taking out a 51-year-old run on a lacquer job. So you guys see we got the runs out on the trunk now, and it's definitely funny 51-year-old run we just removed on the inside of this trunk. Now that the epoxy is dry, we're gonna go ahead and scuff it up a little bit and get that area here that we actually removed and get it back seam sealed up. That way it blends in here to the factory. This part of it was fine. It was just this back section. They must have used a different type of material back then and it was really brittle. So we're gonna go ahead and get that finished up, and this will be one of the last steps on the trunk here before it's ready. The outside sanded, the inside sanded. We'll go around it a little bit more, and then this piece here will be completely done. All right, so this is the product we're gonna be using. This is a 1K seam sealer here, urethane seam sealer from 3M. And this is kind of like what they used back in the old days, because they didn't have a two-part product back then. So we've taped it off, that way we don't get it all over the place, even though this is not really a precision job on the seam sealer on this car. So well, let's go ahead and apply it. All right, so we've got it all seam sealed up now where it needs to be, and we're ready to roll with the trunk. We got the front and back all ready. All right, so also what I'm doing today is making sure that I have all my toners. That way I have everything I need to paint the vehicle here. So I got a spray out card of the color that we've mixed up now that we're gonna be spraying on the Cutlass. And you guys know we use a water base, so we have to be able to duplicate the original color in the water base. And that's what I did here. So I'm gonna show you guys my spray out card. All right, so there's our spray out card in the PPG water. And this here is the original that they had on the car. So, and we're gonna be ready to go here. So I'm just making sure that I have all my toners, and I'm gonna go take a walk now and make sure that I have everything and I'll back up. That way we don't run out of paint in the middle of this job. All right, so make sure you check your cabinets if you're at a shop and you're doing a big job like this, because something like this is gonna eat up a lot of materials, and looks like I'm gonna have to get a couple things ordered in. That way we are safe for the job. We got plenty of clear, we've got reducers, and we got everything. We usually carry a backup at this shop of everything, and these are our colors that we use quite often. We'll label them, that way we have a backup on those, not just here in the cabinet. So we're looking good. I'm making my list, and pretty soon we're gonna be shooting the Cutlass. We always change the filters before we do any of the bigger jobs in here. So that's one more thing we gotta do before we get this thing in here, get the booth all cleaned up, change the floor filters out, and get everything tidied up and get the cleanest job possible. So that's where we're at with the Cutlass. And in the next video, we will be painting it. So make sure you hit the subscribe, make sure you hit the bell, that way you're notified as soon as it comes out, because this one, like I said before, is gonna be a really beautiful one when it's all finished up. So I hope you guys liked it, and we'll see you guys on the next one.